You're listening to the Elevate Your Call to Service podcast. Here you'll gain tools to lead proactively, conquer overwhelm, and revitalize your law enforcement teams and your agency.
We're your hosts, Michael and Cathy McIntosh. Mike is a retired sheriff and current division chief in the Denver metro area with nearly 40 years of law enforcement experience.
Cathy is a business and branding expert and a longtime law enforcement wife with a unique perspective on the human side of law enforcement.
Together, we share a powerful blend of practical experience and insightful roadmaps to help you elevate your call to service. Welcome back. One of the things we like to talk about on the Elevate Your Call to Service podcast is the difference between being intentional and being reactive in your leadership journey. And one of the ways that you can be very, very intentional is to set goals and to have a plan. So my first question to you right out of the chute, Mike, is how do you feel about goals?
I can tell you that I feel differently about goals today than I did before. Quite honestly, I thought that they were kind of a waste of time. Especially when you're talking about sitting down and writing out your goals and, having this plan. And it's like, no, I show up. I react to what is going on during the day. I mean, we have goals in our heads, things that we want to accomplish or that we would like to be able to do. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. I wanted to have a nice career. But I didn't ever really think that goals, as far as sitting down and mapping those things out, was all that important.
I think most of us have been there, and a lot of us are still there, if we're honest about our journey here. But I will also acknowledge that this is a very unusual time to start talking about goals. And in time, I mean time of year. So we are in the August-September framework right now. And most people think about setting their goals in January. But if you're a leader, setting goals right now in that August and September window might just be your secret weapon. And we're going to talk about why the calendar's second half of the year is really where you can build some meaningful momentum in your leadership journey. The problem with goals a lot of times is that people set them, they decide what they want to do, and then the busyness of life takes over. The busyness of work takes over. And pretty soon those goals are shelved, they're postponed, and little by little they're even forgotten about. So you look back after a period of time has gone on and you think all of a sudden, I've done nothing toward that goal. For example, maybe you want to get your degree, your college degree. Maybe your internet's out at the time that you were going to put in your application. And so it's postponed for some reason. And then the next thing happens and the next thing happens. And then a whole entire semester goes by and you think, I didn't even apply. I haven't even applied yet.
Yeah.
I forgot about my goal. I forgot that was something I wanted to do until it becomes urgent again. So in this episode, we are going to help people with a 7-part framework that helps you not forget about your goals, to make them reasonable, achievable, doable, and to make sure that they stay top of mind so that you're actually working on them and starting to see some progress day by day, moment by moment. Those goals stay top of mind. With this level of focus, you're going to ensure that your goals are going to be completed and your leadership journey is going to be moving in a positive direction. And as we talked in our last episode, you're going to start creating the leadership legacy that you want to leave behind and that matters to you and feels good to you and makes you proud of what you're doing. This framework builds in clarity and accountability and checkpoints and urgency, all the things you need to keep those goals moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important, and quite honestly, you have been instrumental in me understanding the importance and the value of setting those goals. And it really does go back to what you just described, because life gets busy. It throws you, a curveball. And when that happens, you're reacting to that curve, right? Um, and it changes your mindset a little bit as to dealing with the here and now, and before you know it, you've completely forgotten about, or even remembered, um, about the goal that you had. And going back to the way that I used to be, sometimes it's not even in my head anymore because of what it is that I'm facing, and I don't have the time to go through that. So you've really been able to get me to understand, how important really kind of writing those things out are. And I remember the first time that we kind of sat down, and you wanted me to kind of start with the end in mind. And when you said the end in mind, you were like literal, the end in mind. You know, what do you want people to say at your funeral? And that kind of started that whole conversation, about, first of all, that's weird. Why would we be talking about that? But I really kind of came to understand, how we, as you say, reverse engineer all of that.
Mhm.
So the first thing that happens is, the goal itself. It's that home run vision, right? It's that clarity. What's your home run? We really need to describe exactly what scoring looks like for this goal. If we want to hit this goal out of the park, what does that look like? What is it that we're going to accomplish?
What is that home run vision? So this is really the softball toss in goal setting. Name your goal. What is it? What are you working toward? It's very black and white. It doesn't have to be overthought. Just name it. Put it out there and decide to move forward. And as you said, just even putting words around it adds clarity to it. And when you write it down, it makes it more real and realistic to go for. The next step in the 7-part framework is deciding why you want to achieve that goal. Why is this important to you? Why is it that this goal matters? So let's go back to getting your college degree. What difference does that make in the life of you or your family or your kids or whomever? Why do you want to go back and get your degree? Maybe you love learning. That's a great reason. Maybe if you had your degree, you'd have more promotional opportunities. Another fantastic reason. Just know why you want to move into this goal and never ever lose sight of that reason,
Hmm.
because that's what's going to keep you motivated. That's the motivating factor.
Yeah, that why, is, to me, that's the critical piece, because when you get into the mud and into the dirt, and the obstacles come up, going back to that and being able to actually see it, um in its written form, it can bring all of that reasoning, that
Mhm,
championship reason,
mhm.
um for for us to be moving in that direction. I also look at the kind of the third part to that framework, is that, kind of that partnership, your teammate in the field, who's going to go on this journey with you, whether they're actually doing the same thing, or it's it's another, team member, it's a partner who is willing to take that journey with you, and help you make sure that you stay on track. um and really, as you're going through it and you need encouragement, that person is there to support you and to make sure that you're keeping up with what it is that you want to do, the steps that you need to take to get through that.
Yeah, that is your teammate in the field, and it's really easy to think of that person as an accountability partner, but I like to think of it as a little deeper than that. Who else is invested with you in this
Mhm.
goal? Who else, with their whole heart, wants to see you succeed in this? Those are the partners that are going to be the most loyal. They're the ones who are going to remind you of your why. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about the movie Monsters Inc. And we've got Mike Wazowski, who's getting up early with Sully and coaching him through his calisthenics and doing all the things. That was Sully's goal partner. He had somebody in his corner that was just as animated, just as motivated, just as excited about this goal as he was.
Yeah.
But we're trying to stay not with a Monsters Inc. focus. We're kind of bending toward baseball in this framework here. So we want to think about it as your teammates on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And then keeping kind of with that baseball theme, as you set a goal, there's going to be different milestones that happen along the way. When you hit that home run, you're moving from home plate where you were standing and batting. You hit the ball. Your goal obviously is to get back to home plate, right? And when you think about the milestones, really you can think of it as the bases, right? So first base is that first measurable progress that you made, and really there's something to be celebrated there, right? You made it, you made it to first. When you get to second base, there's this midpoint momentum. You're halfway through your goal right now, and you're, you know, looking and focused on what I need to do to bring us to third base, because when we get to third base, we're almost home, and we can we
Mhm.
can see the victory of that home plate right in front of us, right? When we make that turn on third and we're looking towards home, we know that we are getting so close to being able to reach the goal that we've set.
Yep, it's being able to finally see that finish line and just give it your all and push through. That's great. The 5th piece of the framework is remembering to take that all-star break.
Hmm.
And the all-star break is really where you pause with your goal for maybe a half an hour or an afternoon. It's not like you take your foot off the pedal, but you pause long enough to reevaluate. How are things going? What different resources might I need that I didn't know I needed? Maybe I need some different training or some different accountability. Maybe I've made some great progress and I've got some wins that I really want to celebrate. That's what the All Star break is for. You just want to take that pause to celebrate, to adjust, to evaluate, and to improve what your methods are in accomplishing this goal so that you can finish absolutely strong.
Yeah, I love that metaphor with the All-Star break, and the thing that I like it, baseball always does it kind of right in the middle of the season,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And when you think about, I mean, we think about the home run derby, we think about the All-Star game, but when you start to think about the team, the coaches, even the players, it's an opportunity to take a break and say, where are we at?
Mhm.
How are we doing on the goals that we've set? We're we're midway through this. What adjustments do we need to make? Are there obstacles that are in the way that we weren't expecting? But it gives us an opportunity to really kind of take that pause and say, what do we need to do now, that we're midway through, and it could come a little bit sooner, and it could come a little bit later, but
There's a reasonable point, and you'll know when it is.
right, right.
And I also view that that pause as a time of refreshment and a time to catch your breath and to know that you've got what it takes to keep going, to look back and say, "Okay, I've made it this far. I've done some really great things. I can breathe, I can celebrate, I can adjust, and now I can hit it out of the park." The next step, number 6, is to have a deadline.
Mm.
A goal without a deadline is just a wish. It's not something that you're genuinely working toward. It's just something that's out there, and you may or may not get to it. And there's just no sense of urgency about it. And we like to think of this in terms of storytelling. And every entertaining story that you've ever read or watched on TV or seen in the cinema has some sort of a sense of urgency about it. There's some kind of clock ticking to where if something doesn't happen in a certain period of time, wow, devastation's going to come,
Right.
right? So you need to know what the consequences are. What happens if I don't hit that goal at a particular time? And maybe it's even just a personal motivation that I need to hit it so that so I can be at my son's graduation. Whatever the sense of urgency is, have one of those. Have a deadline for your goal. And you've got a great baseball tie-in for this one.
When I look at that baseball tie-in, I call it the final out, right? And when you think about the baseball analogy again, there's a final out of every inning. There's a final out of every game, and there's actually a final out of every season, right? A- and what that means to me is there are different lines in the sand, lines of demarcation, things that you're going to have to accomplish before that final out. And when your goal has that final out in mind, um, that deadline that you had talked about, that's when it's important to understand what that is so that you can keep your eye on that.
The other part of that is you're going to keep running until you cross that finish line. You are not going to stop. You're going to press on through and finish
Yeah.
finish the race.
Yeah.
Cross home plate as hard as you can because that final out is upon us. The 7th portion of the framework is to know the sacrifices that are necessary to fulfill this goal. And there is no goal under the sun that means anything that will come without sacrifice.
Right.
And if you can envision what you're going to have to give up in order to fulfill this goal, it is going to keep you so so much more successful because those sacrifices aren't going to sneak up and surprise you midway through. I didn't know I was going to have to lose so much sleep. I didn't know that my tuition was going to be so expensive. I didn't know that somebody was going to quit on my shift, and now I was going to be covering more than I thought I was
Right.
going to at work. When you can mentally prepare for what this goal is going to cost you, you are going to be so much better able to weather the storms, to manage to find a way to get it finished. When you think it's just going to be all, butterflies and roses all the way through to the finish line, you're going to be sorely disappointed. And that's when the temptation to give up really sets in. So knowing those sacrifices ahead of time makes things, it puts it in a realistic light, and it puts you in the right mind frame to press on toward your goal no matter what.
The other thing that I think is so important about that is to be able to communicate those sacrifices, right?
Mhm.
Especially when there's other people that are involved. If you have those communications up front, when the strain of that sacrifice, whether it's on a family, if it's on a marriage, if it's on a bank account, um, everybody understands that sacrifice and why it is that you're going through that. So understanding and really planning on that sacrifice um, up front is going to, back to your point, it's going to allow you to keep pressing through that. I love this analogy when you pull it to baseball because there is either a sacrifice play, sacrifice bunt, sacrifice fly,
Mhm.
um, and and we hear it so often that it really doesn't. It you don't understand the impact of that. But if I'm going to up to bat and I'm going to try to get somebody else home
To score the run for
so
the
that
team.
they can be successful,
Mhm.
to score that run for the team, I'm willing to make that sacrifice out, right? So that my partner, my teammate, my can accomplish what it is that they need to accomplish. Knowing those costs up front is going to help you be successful in the end.
And for those that don't know baseball at all, a sacrifice fly might be you're gonna hit it to the outfielder's gonna catch that ball, you're gonna be out. You're not even gonna have a chance to run the bases.
Right.
But the runner who is already on the base has just been given time to tag up and to make it to the next base, maybe even
Yeah.
make it all the way home. So you're just advancing the runner who's not you because you're willing to sacrifice. And it is a great analogy there. So I'm gonna ask you, Mike, those are our 7 pieces of the framework.
Yeah.
Um, can you remember a time that you set a goal in your career and it made all the difference because you started thinking, "This is the goal I've set. I've got people behind me. I know what the sacrifices are gonna be." It made just having this framework and this mindset made all the difference in what you were able to accomplish.
Yeah. So as I as I had kind of mentioned, I didn't really see the value, and I really didn't set a whole lot of goals for myself when I first professionally when I first started. I was just kind of going through it, and I would take things as they came. There was a position that I really wanted, which is kind of interesting when I look back at it. Um, I really wanted to take on the role and have an opportunity to build um, a law enforcement academy and a training center. And the sheriff at the time was going to be selecting um, a lieutenant to do that. And that was the first time that I really started to set some goals so that I was I was the one that was selected, right? I wanted to make sure that I was the person to beat in all of that because I really wanted that position. I wanted that position because I thought in it came to fruition that I had a huge impact on our organization, on me professionally, and kind of started to put the sheriff's office on the map as one of those leaders in the metro area, right? And I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be the one that was leading through that.
That's so good. I have a similar story where I really wanted to be a speaker and I wanted to be on stage and address an audience. And I was working with a company and we were planning for a regional convention. So it was going to happen in Denver, but there were people from all over the country that were going to come to Denver and they needed speakers for that event. And they were literally asking people in that room who wanted to speak.
Mm,
And that was just something that was a goal of mine, and I did not see that opportunity coming, and I can remember just knocking over my water glass and spilling it on the lady next to me. It was awful, but it was just such like, I knew that was for me, and
mm,
sure enough, I did speak at that retreat, and it was my very, very first speaking engagement, and it meant so much to know it's almost like when the opportunity comes, your heart's just beating out of your chest, and you know this has my name on it and I'm going for it and no matter what it takes, I'm going to do this.
yeah.
That's great. Have you seen a department or a unit or a team transformed because of a shared goal?
Oh, absolutely. Um, I think that I see that a lot more today, especially in the role that I'm in. I see that a lot more today than than I used to before. I think this whole concept of setting goals, I think that that happens a lot more now than it used to in the past. Um, whether it's a goal or a plan, but it's used in our special teams all the time, right? And
Mhm.
that's truly kind of what makes us those high performing teams. Um, and in my position, that's what my role is to run these special operations teams. And so I get to see that. I get to see the impact of, we're not just planning for this specific mission, but we're planning for being prepared for things that are going on either in our organization, but even keeping our vision so large that we're understanding what's happening in law enforcement throughout our nation so that we can be prepared for that and to respond to that in ways that we may need to respond.
And everybody gets on the same page because you have that common goal that you're working toward. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what you would say to an officer, a deputy, maybe even a client who feels like goals are woo woo. They don't have time for that. There's, they can just drift right into the next accomplishment. They don't really need to be intentional about it. What would you say to that person?
I would let them know that if you're in that mindset, you basically are going to accept whatever happens to
Mhm,
you.
mhm,
Um, there are so many things in our profession, in life, that we can have an impact on the way that it turns out if we're intentional,
mhm,
if we set goals, if we have a plan, um, because all of those, a- a- all, all of those goals, all of those plans, they also have contingencies in them, right? If A and B works, if I get the first or second, and the third outcomes, well, the contingency is next time, that I'm up to bat, um, we try to get on base again, right? You never stop trying. There's always a goal and a plan, and you deal with the obstacles. You plan for the obstacles as much as you can. Um, don't leave it to chance. Is I guess what I'm saying. Um, have some have some
Ownership,
ownership, accountability,
agency, yeah.
responsibility, in your future and those around you. You're part of a team. And if you're in a law enforcement profession, it's the entire agency, right? Um, a team of one, as as I've heard it said recently, and I really do believe in that. We need to all come together and move the big vision forward. We all play a part in that. And how is it that we're going to accomplish our role? When we talk about a tactical situation, we call them AORs, or areas of responsibility. And I'm responsible for a specific assignment, a specific area, and my partner is counting on me to take care of that,
Mhm.
and to know that I am trained, that I'm educated, and that I can take care of that area of responsibility because I've planned for that. I've set goals so that I'm able to do those things, and that's critical. It's life or death in our profession. We can't go through life just you know
Drifting.
drifting.
Mhm,
I'll take things as it comes.
mhm.
We've got to have a plan. We've got to have a goal.
I just want to remind our listeners this is not a podcast that prepares you to make a goal in December/January. This is your opportunity to get ahead of the game and to use early planning as your secret weapon. You have just come out of mid year. Vacations are starting to end. Kids are going back to school. It's like this automatic reset that we have at this time of year. And if you can start a goal today, you are going to be well on your way when January rolls around. People are just going to be picking up the pieces and starting their goals, but you're going to be already close to achieving a goal because you did not let these several months go by without taking some action. So
Mm.
I just encourage you to give yourself enough runway with your goal toward the end of the year to finish strong, to know at the end of 2025 that you are just on such a great path and that you're going to be able to accomplish what it is that you set out to do because you have this goal plan um, at your fingertips.
Yeah.
We've got a goal focus worksheet complete with a baseball theme that is ready for you to download. You can find that at our show notes at leleaders.com/elevate. It's yours for the taking. We would love to share that with you. And as we start to think about the challenge that we want to share with our listeners, I just want to encourage you to download that goal worksheet, that goal focus worksheet, and fill out the 7-part framework for one goal. And then start your journey to achieve that goal and to hit it out of the park. And I love also with this baseball analogy, we do say we want to hit our goals. So hit it and hit it out of the park. Hit it well.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Ready to build a stronger team, improve your reputation, strengthen officer safety, and recruit top talent? Visit us at leleaders.com and schedule a call with us today. We'd love to discuss how our coaching programs, workshops, and keynote addresses can help you build proactive leaders in a reactive profession.
In the meantime, if you like what you've heard today, we'd love your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.